All right, guys, we're waiting for things to spool up here. Almost ready. Okay, here we are. All right, ladies and gents, welcome to the Edge Friday live Q&A. Today it's Friday, June 21st. You're joined by me, Kylan Hurd, a former front-end developer. Well, still front-end developer.
Whoa.
Mute,
Hold
please.
on. It's my first time up here. I'm nervous,
A front-end developer / blockchain developer now. Yeah, I'm messing around with the blockchain these days. Very difficult. So if the Bitcoin network goes down, it's probably my fault. And I'm joined today by our business development manager. And paradigm shifter.
There we go.
And you said you had
Pump me
another.
up a little bit,
you,
baby.
You said you had another title coming your way. So I was curious what kind of title you were thinking.
I was thinking of
would be next for you.
I was thinking of going with Chief Dank Officer
or
Chief
Dankage.
of Dankness. Just
Chief
making sure that
Dankage.
our products and services are dank as fuck.
And out of your curiosity, where do you think the dankage meter is on Edge Wallet right now?
Our dank levels are solid.
They are solid,
but they're not spectacular. But I think in the next couple of months it will be spectacular. There's going to be a lot of different financial services in there.
I think we got a lot of stuff coming our way during the next 6 months, and I'm very excited about it. For those of you who are out there joining us live, if you have any questions or comments, we got this live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, which is kind of Periscope. So if you want to throw some questions or comments our way, please do. We love interacting with you guys. Even if you're trolling us, you got to be careful because we might troll you back. So for those of you who've not downloaded Edge Wallet, it's available at edge.app. Multi-currency crypto wallet on your smartphone, and we make it easy for you to interact with your money. We keep you safe. We make sure you don't lose your passwords, and we also make sure you don't get hacked.
And we also don't want to know who you are, and we don't want any of your data.
Yeah. At least business-wise, we don't want to know who you are.
We don't want your money. We don't want your data. So we're kind of the opposite of Facebook and Wall Street.
We essentially want you to be loaded, living the best life possible, and we want our app to play a part in that.
Live your best life.
When you're
boo.
When you're buying that Lambo, we want you to buy it with Edge Wallet
privately.
Discreetly. All right, so there's some stories this week. I guess we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is, of course, Mark Zuckercoin.
The mark of the beast.
The Mark Zuckercoin.
Is this it?
That's right. For those of you who've not been paying too close of attention, turns out that Facebook is now going to be implementing their own cryptocurrency into Facebook. I don't know all the details, Brett. I think you've done a little bit more reading on it. What can you tell the audience about what Facebook is planning on rolling out?
Yeah, I think there's two ways to look at it. One is from an engineering perspective, and then one is from more of a cultural, economic perspective, and just like the general zeitgeist. From an engineering perspective, none of this is interesting at all. And if you look at the crypto markets right now, we have a lot of assets out there that are like the Libra in the sense that they either are a basket of fiat currencies or some other assets that already exist in the world.
So are you talking about like other stable coins right now?
That's
or are you talking
the Libra is a stable coin because they're basically going to back whatever Libras they print with a basket of government securities. And when they say government securities, it's probably going to be U.S. bonds, I'm thinking.
Right.
I wouldn't expect them to invest in European bonds because they actually are yielding negative now, which means
you'll be losing
you would
money.
Be paying them. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But so I'm guessing they're gonna have a lot of U.S. government securities in there, and then dollars and maybe some euros. And it looks like Facebook has basically become a corporate proxy for what a lot in the internationalist financial community has wanted to do for years, and specifically, and I talked about this a few weeks ago. I thought this is what they're going to do, in the sense that they'd create a basket of assets. It wouldn't just be based on the dollar or the euro. It'd be like dollar, euro, yen, and some government bonds, all kind of all bundled up into one little Libra. Right, and it'll probably trade around $1, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. It depends on what the market thinks it's valued at, and they're using a blockchain. But I don't know how. Is that interesting? And it's definitely going to be centralized. They definitely have a bunch of corporate partnerships and people signing up to be nodes. The average user, like in Bitcoin, who could run a node and be part of the network and mine, couldn't do that in this system. They need to, probably have some type of corporate relationship with Facebook,
Right.
And also they've put out that big $10 million
Per
number,
node,
which basically,
yeah.
if you wanted to run the Libra network or be a part of whatever Facebook's setting up, you would have to cough over about 10 mil.
10 mil.
Whereas in other systems in cryptocurrency, all you need is a laptop.
A Raspberry
A
Pi,
Raspberry Pi,
as
baby,
they say.
for all the BTC cypherpunks out there. So from an engineering perspective, not interesting at all. We already have this, but from a cultural perspective, it's transformational. It's a huge deal. Facebook is now a global bank and central bank. And I think this is a great pivot for Mark Zuckerberg. And they have a great business going with advertising. But after all the controversy and a lot of the regulatory pressure, this might be a really good pivot.
That's what I was thinking,
for
yeah.
them, because they're killing it in advertising. They're doing really well. The stock's done well over the last decade. But now, once corporations get to a certain point, or any business, you end up becoming a bank, right? You have a lot
Right.
of cash on hand. You want to lend it out, and there's
Got plenty of users, and every users need to pay each other money.
and no one
right?
makes more money than the people that print money.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think Mark Zuckerberg, from all his actions, seems like a pretty ambitious guy.
Yeah.
Every ambitious, power hungry person in the world has always wanted to print their own money, and now he's pretty close to getting it. And the fact remains, they have 1.7 billion people on their platform, or maybe close to 2.
Right.
But people like us do not.
Maverick Musser's not one of them. I don't think.
I
He's
deleted
not on
mine.
it.
I mean, people like us don't necessarily like Facebook or trust them, but
Right.
there are hundreds. I mean, I would say out of that billion, there's got to be hundreds of millions
Right.
that do trust Facebook on a
Right.
day-to-day basis.
And even if they don't trust them a ton, all they need to do is trust them more than PayPal, right?
100%.
Not subjective. It's a relative competition.
Yeah. And I expect them to not only build financial services on top of Libra, but other financial institutions or other platforms also, or other developers building on top of Libra as well. So
Right.
maybe some lending,
That's what I was
credit
thinking,
cards,
right.
debit cards. I mean, it's all going to be integrated. And then relating this back to what we actually care about and some of the better systems that we think going forward will dominate Libra. This is a gateway drug to Bitcoin.
Right.
And the day they announced Libra was the day that cryptocurrency went mainstream from a global perspective, because Facebook is the definition of global mainstream.
That's true. They have pretty much a further reach than just about anything.
Oh,
yeah,
it's huge.
like you said, from a technical standpoint,
Not interesting.
I mean, there's not going to be anything decentralized about it. But if they are trying to offer an alternative that is better than something like PayPal or Venmo or Western Union, then it could absolutely be a step in the right direction.
I expect them to crush them, and
Right.
I expect them to crush.
And
banks
those are people
that are
that-
not keeping up with the
Yeah.
retail
Right.
end of things. So like things like Bank of America and Wells Fargo and J.P. Morgan better be very worried. And if they were ever thinking about international expansion, this is literally cutting them off, because Facebook's global everywhere, and it's not even
Wait,
just Facebook.
who's
They have
cutting what
WhatsApp.
off? Say it again.
So if what I'm saying is, if any of these U.S. commercial banks, which they need to expand because of just they represent shareholders who want to make more and more
Right,
money.
right.
So they need perpetual growth.
Right.
And if they wanted to go, they've already dominated the U.S. market.
Right. And then
If they wanted to keep expanding internationally, I'm saying this kills that dream.
Right.
If they
And
ever wanted
it's
that.
already hard for banks to do that because
Yes,
of the
it was
way
already
the
hard.
financial
Exactly.
regulations
They were
work.
trying to, and now not only is that cut off, but I think Facebook will.
They're already
We're
in there.
gonna dominate
They're already
in
in
the-
there.
Exact-
Their servers don't even have to be there, but their users are there, so they are there.
And then it's not even Facebook, but they also own WhatsApp, which if
Right.
for any of you that have traveled, know that WhatsApp
And
is a huge
Instagram
deal.
as well,
And
yeah.
Instagram is big as
Right.
well. So not only did they cut off any chance for banks to expand internationally, but they're now going to start eating their U.S. lunch.
Right.
Because there's a lot of, Facebook's a U.S. company.
Right.
A lot of U.S. users. The first user base was in the U.S., and there's a lot of people. They've built up a lot of trust and a lot of distrust in the U.S., but there are still a lot of people that use it, and I think they're gonna end up providing much better financial services, and I think
Right.
that's a great thing.
Right. To be honest, you mentioned WhatsApp, and of course, what goes hand to hand, what goes better than messaging and money together? Even if you use Venmo and PayPal, what's the one thing that they allow you to do with the payments? Add a message, right?
Yes.
So it's just if you want to message information back and forth, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump before you want to actually be able to send money. So the two do go hand in hand. So you have to wonder, are you thinking that using cryptocurrency or whatever this Frankenstein is a way for them to be able to get cross borders without having to deal with the regulations as much? Or
From like which party?
Internationally, Facebook.
Facebook.
Right.
I don't think. Are you asking me if there's going to be? Are they trying to get around some regulatory loopholes?
Why wouldn't they just say, hey, why don't use Facebook Pay and it just uses US dollars? Why use Libra?
Oh, I think going back to what I was saying before, this is definitely a power thing.
Right.
And there's I was also saying before that Facebook is effectively acting as a corporate proxy for what a lot of internationalist financiers and people that have a more international globalist perspective.
Right.
And a lot of them want to get off the US dollar as the end-all be-all anchor for economic activity.
Because they're concerned about the dollar itself, or just because they don't want to be beholden to the U.S. government, or both? Okay.
I think after, like, if the way the international financial system was set up after World War II, if you put it in that perspective, like the U.S. was the only game in town. Right. Everyone else had been decimated.
Right.
Western Europe was decimated. China was decimated. Japan was decimated. The only one that kind of had something was Russia going, but they still didn't have a very vibrant economy, and no one wanted to anchor the international financial system to that. So they basically picked the U.S. And we've been, let's just say, we've taken advantage of our place as a reserve currency, and people have wanted to move away from that for a long time. And now, like I was saying before, Zuckerberg, he seems like a guy who wants power. People with power and that want more have always wanted to print their own money.
Right.
So if you just keep it pegged 1-to-1 to the U.S. dollar, I think that limits your flexibility.
Right.
I think they're going to open it up in the future. I could definitely see there's no reason that Libra can't be in some way a part of its reserve assets. There's no reason things like Bitcoin or Ethereum can't be in those reserves. So now it's fiat, but one of the things that the Libra project has done is they've left it pretty open, and they've said they want to make it even more open source and more transparent and what was
dynamic?
their word, but I guess more decentralized.
Right.
Like they've from reading their literature on it, they recognize that it's centralized, right? They're controlling it, but they want to. They at least have the seeds, or it looks like they have the intention of maybe making it more decentralized than it is.
Right.
Which I will be fair to them in the sense we'll see if they do that. I'm not going to hold my breath, but every network you could think of Bitcoin when it first started as centralized, right? It was only Satoshi and Hal Finney,
right?
Like two people,
right.
So I don't think that's a fair criticism, but it at least Bitcoin had the seeds to become decentralized after that, and it did. So does Libra have the same seeds? It doesn't, but they might be able to spread it out in a pretty good way. That's maybe it's not as good as Bitcoin, but it'll definitely be better than the system we have now with like J.P. Morgan, the Fed, Wells Fargo, whatever. It'll at least be much better services with the same risk profile and the same problems that we had before. It'll be better, cleaner, faster, beautiful, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's centralization issues depending on how many nodes they have. There's the question of, okay, will it be vulnerable to attack? Because on one hand, you're like, oh, if there's not that many nodes, then maybe it would. But if the nodes are owned by big international companies, then
with large stakes,
they're probably going to be relatively secure, right? You would think.
Yeah. You just don't have that. You definitely don't have that trustlessness,
right?
An ambiguous trustlessness factor that you have with other, I guess, more pure cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. Well, time will tell with the Facebook Libra. Let's see here. What else do we got? Price pump. Want to talk about the price? What do you think? We're not to 10K yet. We're getting there.
Just off the action we've been seeing, I definitely wouldn't be surprised over the weekend we push past 10K.
Yeah.
And then from there, whenever you're in, I guess, orders of magnitude range, like when prices hit 1 or 10 or 100, those kind of big measurable units that humans like. It's
Yeah.
just easy for you to do a
Factors
mental
of
accounting.
10,
Exactly.
right?
Factor.
Factors of 10.
Whenever you get that,
Extra
it's almost
zero.
like there's a person out there that like presses a media button and there's a bunch of articles. But it doesn't happen. It's just kind of like a natural human thing. It hits 100, it hits 1,000, hits 10,000, and
Right.
you get. So once it hits 10,000, it's hard to know like where it could go from there because
Right.
you get on these like media loops.
Yeah.
And people get on these frenzies.
Yeah.
And you could blow past certain numbers.
The hype cycle.
Yeah. And definitely not making any hard prediction, but definitely wouldn't be surprised if it goes over 10,000 this weekend.
This weekend's what you're saying.
And
yeah.
then after that, like things can get pretty explosive pretty quickly in Bitcoin. You really don't need that much capital coming in for there to be a large increase in, I guess, your return. But the same that's hot money coming in. So
Right.
you could blow past 15 or 17 or maybe even
Right.
20, and then it could
We've blown,
retrace.
we've blown
pretty
past
quickly.
it before,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I do wonder. On one hand, you have the people who were there last time who've watched it crash and maybe will be, or even more. Exactly. But the mainstream one was this last one. And now even more people are going to know about it. So it's like you would think, oh, well, people learn their lessons. Like, no, there will be people who missed out on the last one who are going to look at this one and be like, oh, I can't miss out on this one.
No,
you know what I mean?
I mean, the same
So
story
it
is going
could-
to repeat itself.
Do you think the crash?
Infinitely.
Do you think the crash? I think you're right. I think eventually, hopefully, it starts
first
to
of
like.
all, like people are at different. They're at different. I guess they're at different parts of their own personal journey in terms
Right.
of their awareness of like money and finance and what's going on in markets.
Right.
People die every day and are born, so they have to like kind of
Right.
relearn things.
Right.
So there's always going to be someone new out there in the globe.
Right.
That has just been introduced to Bitcoin. It
Right.
might be 2024, and he's going to do the same thing that people in, maybe 2016 or 17 did.
Yeah.
Chase the bull, buy it, and then it crashes. They get disillusioned and sell it.
Yeah.
That'll happen over and over and over again until it becomes like baked into the reality and the volatility. There isn't those huge swings of volatility like that, which I think it'll definitely peter out as it becomes more baked into society,
Yeah,
and
you would think.
the halvings become less consequential.
Yeah.
Right, because you go from like maybe only one Bitcoin was coming out, but if you go from
Right.
1 Bitcoin to a half a Bitcoin, that's not
Yeah.
the same. It might not be the same at that
There's
point.
already a larger circulating supply too at that point
Exactly.
as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and you're getting closer and closer to that 21 million emission.
What lessons do you think you learned from the last price pump and then price crash?
Oh, that
For you personally, I don't know what
for me
I
personally?
don't know
Well,
what your
me
I don't
and
know
everyone.
I
I
don't
think-
know what your investments were like, but I'm always curious to hear what people's kind of lessons were. I'll be fully honest. I got hit really hard by it. If I'm being honest,
well,
I'm okay.
I don't think if you're in cryptocurrency, there's no way you couldn't have been hit hard,
Right.
in some way.
There's like that 1 in a million person who
So,
somehow got
like,
out,
to
but
me,
that
yeah, like
I don't even believe that they got.
I was
they're
hit
probably
hard, but
lying
I
anyway.
feel like I can lose a lot of money and not feel anything because
Right.
to me that action is largely illusory, and so prices don't always hold for very long.
Right.
So I often think the market's wrong, and that's how you got to think of it as an investor.
Right.
But I guess what you learn is that money is a drug. It does weird things to people. It does weird things to yourself.
Right.
And if
you lose your sanities a little
100%.
bit.
And like
Yeah.
any drug, it's really fun. Like there's no denying that drugs can be fun.
Yeah.
But if, let's just say if you're too dependent on those waves, that can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right? If you're dependent on a drug for, certain feelings, and if you're dependent on money for certain feelings about yourself or your position,
Right.
it's definitely crypto's going to hurt you because you're going to be thrown all around.
Right.
But if you're if you have more of the mindset of I'm accumulating and I'm stacking sat over sat, bit over bit over time,
Right.
and you don't really the market vicissitudes, you don't necessarily put that much weight into them, then you're fine. But you have to know that money's a drug. You're a human being, and sometimes you need to take a break or not. They're not that. It's not that important.
Right.
Just let it. Don't let it take over your life.
Yeah, and I think another thing is people chase the highs and the lows. Listen, you're never gonna really time it correctly. And the time that you do time it correctly, you try not to convince yourself that that was all skill, because it almost certainly was not all skill.
No.
So if you're lucky enough to buy and sell at the exact right times, take it and just realize the next time that's probably not going to happen.
So
right?
yeah, in my personal position, I haven't bought crypto since 2015. I've been earning it since 2016, and
You haven't. You said you haven't bought it.
yeah, I haven't bought it.
Right,
in
but you get paid in Bitcoin,
I get
so
paid, so I
you-
earn it. You know,
Yeah,
so that's like
aggregate,
the game
right.
I'm playing is earning it over time, and I'm trading my labor hours
Right.
For Bitcoin.
Right.
And I'm always in the market in the sense that I'm always buying it with my labor hours, and then I sell it in the sense that I have to buy things to eat, to fly. But if you're in
Fly.
if you're in crypto, you know where to get everything. You know, like I have a debit card.
Right.
I've got things online. I could use Purse. I can use Try Lolly. I can use Cheap Air. I can use Overstock. I can use all types of different vendors that'll take it. So
Right.
I'm always in the market spending it. I'm always earning it. And, you know, the game I'm playing is, you know, just stack up bits over time and then, you know, just kind of ride the waves. If the price is going up, you know, I have a little more, I got a little wealth effect there. I can spend a little bit. Price is
Right.
going down. Maybe I take back my
Circle the
spending a little
wagons,
bit. And then
yeah.
I'm also earning more bits during that time. So
Right.
I try not to get too down or too upset and more focused on what we're doing at edge. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of keeps me off.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, money's a drug, and then especially something like Bitcoin, it's like financial heroin, right? Because
Yeah.
you get these like 50% pumps, but you also get the 50% dumps.
But literally the highs and the
so-
withdrawals.
Yeah, if you can't handle that type of, you know, I like roller coasters and shit. Like, you know, if you can't handle that, you know, you need to like pare back your position.
Yeah.
Because the drug is too strong for you.
And that's like one of those things where one of the most dangerous things you can do is try to spend money that you don't have yet, because you're assuming that it is going to continue going up.
Oh yeah, that's where people. I definitely
That's-
don't do that.
That's a
yeah.
big no. I don't think I ever did that, but I know people who did. You're like, oh well, yeah, it'll probably keep going up. So if I spend this now, you know.
Yeah, the thing is, people can be right, but it depend. Like it's all depending on timing and your time frame. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I
timing's the
personally
hardest,
know
yeah.
Bitcoin's going to go up.
Yeah.
but I have no like. I think of that when I say that sentence. I think that's a guarantee every 3 to 5 years. But in between, like before the 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, there's no guarantee there. You could be in
Right.
a bear market for quite a while, and that could
You lose 85, 90% like we just did,
yeah,
right?
and if you've added on some financial steroids to your financial heroin, because that's what debt is. Debt is financial steroids, right? You can do some powerful things with it. It increases your returns, but it also increases your losses on the downside.
You said debt.
yeah, debt is like
Right.
steroids. Bitcoin's like heroin, right?
It's
So
like-
people, if you're levering up your Bitcoin position, that's how you get people get into a lot of trouble.
Right,
You know,
right.
they know it's going to go up in the next 3 weeks. I don't know how anyone knows that. You know, I
Yeah,
have no
you-
idea.
you essentially
I know.
don't.
I know people are chasing clout on Twitter, trying to put up their like triangles and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I know, you know, I follow a couple traders that I actually respect, because
Right.
traders do serve a very useful function in the market. And a lot of them they're not necessarily in the prediction business. They're looking at sentiment, and they're constantly positioning themselves for upside and protecting their downside. So they're never like, I know this is going to happen. They just position themselves so if it happens, they make money, and if it doesn't, they don't die.
Yeah.
Right? Where a lot of I guess a lot of newbie traders are like trying to like predict the market, where a lot of the guys that are really good at it, they're not predicting anything.
Right.
Right? They're out of that business. What
Yeah.
they do is position themselves
Right.
to make money,
Right.
and then if they're wrong, they don't lose anything.
Right.
That's it. That's
Right.
the whole game. And then in between that, you can kind of like, all right, you play around with your predictions. You know, you might have some gambles that you're making, but you're always under the assumption that you don't know anything and you could be wrong.
Right.
Because the worst thing you could do in trading or finance and money is die.
Yeah, I'd say, or think you're certain.
Oh, that's how you die. That's exactly
Yeah.
how you die. Right? Even if you're certain, you should have backups, and maybe even backups on backups.
Yeah.
Right? Be like, I know I'm right, but I could be wrong. And those are some of the best traders. And the thing that defines them is humility about what they know and can know.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that I learned was I learned so many different lessons. It's crazy. First one is, let's see here, that when you have a bunch of crypto, when your crypto's worth a bunch, then you watch it go down to next to nothing.
Yeah.
You start realizing when the money was up, you're like, oh man, I'm going to buy this and that. I'm going to go here and go there and do that. And so you establish habits, spending habits, when the money's really high. And you get used to doing that. And as the money goes down, if you don't shake those habits, then when the value goes down, you're still spending more than you have when the crypto's down, and then you're just eating through it like 3x, 5x, 20x times. So that was a big lesson I learned. The other one is like, just you have to think about what it is that makes you happy. Yeah, it'd be cool to have like a Lambo and stuff like that, but or have like a super nice car or super nice clothes. But like for me, I've noticed over the last couple of years, if I'm happiest when I'm in front of a computer just doing work.
You like to build things.
Yeah, I'm a builder.
Exactly.
So it doesn't really cost much money to do something like that. All you need is a laptop and a place to do it.
So I mentioned like Bitcoin is a drug for a lot of people,
Right.
and they usually a lot of people do turn that into other drugs, like a Lambo, which is a drug, and there's no
Right.
denying its power. Like when you're, I've actually
Cruising
been in
down the
one,
street and
like
people look at you like,
there's no way you can't feel amazing, right? But that, like any drug, that wears off, and you need to get like a new one or
Yeah.
something, right? So. Yeah, I would say definitely don't turn one drug into another. It's an endless hedonistic cycle. And I think all the ancients and any like religious tradition or moral tradition talks about, money, its power, and like what it does to people. And like I was just saying, I was talking from a psychological perspective in terms of like spending and saving and stuff like that, and the market. But it also like it makes people weird, right? Once you can only feel it in yourself,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, there are things that you couldn't do before, and now you can, and you have certain feelings about yourself, right? And that can be, and you definitely see this. You see this online all the time with people in crypto that have a lot of money now, right? I can only describe it as they get weird,
Yeah.
because before they're
Talking about like they're flashing
when you
it
have
or what?
when you have fuck you money.
Yeah.
Right, and you didn't have a fuck you attitude before, but now you do
Now
because
you
the
do.
money. It
And
just
you
it
don't
gets a
have to
little
care,
weird,
right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you can
Right.
get rude and you can lose friends
Exactly.
and you can just be a jerk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's different.
So like there might have been a tight Bitcoin community before, right? But it was all, it might have been based on like, they might have not had anything before and they had these common interests and then it blew up and then all of a sudden these small differences become huge
and they don't have to take shit from each other.
No, yeah,
so
exactly.
they'll
They
just
become
scream at each other.
Yeah, the inner asshole comes out, right?
Yeah.
Because now you really don't give a fuck. It might have been
It's not going to cost you, even if it costs you money, you have so much.
Yeah, you
you're
don't-
already a CEO of whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and you start
The egos.
100%.
The egos come up.
Yeah, and you can feel it. I can feel it in myself, or you can feel it in yourself, right?
Oh
Whenever-
yeah. Even with my friends, it's like, okay, before I would have taken some shit. Now I'm like, I don't give a fuck. You
Yeah.
want to mess with me? That's fine. Like I'm heading places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
so you have to catch yourself when that happens, right?
100%.
Because at the end of the day, if you have tons of money, that's great. But if you don't have any friends, you'll live a lonely life.
More money, more problems. It's very true.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other thing is for me at this point, like a perfect day is wake up, go surf, come home, write code, maybe go back out and surf again. Surfing is one of those things. All you need is a board and the ability to surf, and it doesn't cost much money. Like I don't have to go stay in some posh hotel. Like I said, drive a Lambo or anything like that. So it's money. Well, it was completely unnecessary.
And I just know from personal experience, there have been times where I've had the most money that I've ever had up to that point, and it didn't change. Yeah, it didn't change I didn't actually feel that great at the time for other reasons in my life, right?
Right.
And you realize it's like. Money can't buy everything. An old thing that everyone's grandmother says,
Right.
And it's very true. Like there's been times where my portfolio is at a much better place, but there's been other things in my life where it's like I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just numbers on a screen.
Yeah. So I'm curious, and you don't have to go into too much personal information on this one, but like one thing I've had a little bit of a challenge is when my portfolio is doing well, I'm working in the industry, cryptocurrency is going up. It looks like it's putting some wind into my sails and that I'm on a good path. I don't know what your friends are like, but how do you find ways to kind of bring your friends along with you or your family along with you? Because I try to get them to buy some
Yeah,
Bitcoin. Some
yeah.
of them do, some of them don't. I'm not going to just start dishing out money. That's not how I work. But they are my friends, so I want them to be able. I want to be able to spend time with them. But if I'm going to some like nice restaurant or something and they can't afford it, like it causes a little bit of a friction, right? If there's a slight change in lifestyle and not everyone can hang. How do you deal with that?
How do you deal with? Well,
How do you bring your friends, your loved ones along for the ride? He's
well,
like,
first
I
of all,
don't.
Well, you can't.
I'm
well,
kidding, I'm
Yeah,
kidding,
no,
I'm
you just
kidding.
can't. You can't force them. I've always given the same. I've given the same advice for the last like 5 years, 4 years, and that's to save a little Bitcoin over time. Whatever you're making, if you're only comfortable with $20 every 2 weeks putting into Bitcoin, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
That's all I tell them. Some people come to me for like they want more. I'm like, there is nothing more. That's my advice.
They want more?
Well, they want me to like talk about the other cryptos, and like I'm just like,
yeah.
dude or dudette, you don't even understand Bitcoin right now. You don't need to be buying these other
Yeah.
things. I like these other things. I hold some of
Yeah.
them, but it's more of like a gambling, a cool crypto project that I
Right.
kind of know about.
Right.
But I'm not under the impression that all these are going to work out.
Right.
And I'm definitely not recommending it to anyone.
Right.
And I also don't give like timing advice.
Oh,
my
God,
my
no.
timing is
Good God,
always
no.
buy now. And buy regularly in small
It's
increments.
the consistently successful strategy.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to do any math. You don't need to know anything about Bitcoin. That's all you need to do. Going to your other question, that's just a personal growth thing. You grow past
Some people.
You
is that
grow
what you're
past
saying?
people
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's a disservice to stop your growth
Right.
to help pull someone else up. It might not even work.
Yeah. Why not?
But you can. I think you can.
you can try.
You put a ladder down for them.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Right.
And
Hope that they try to
there
climb.
are people, and you'll be pleasantly surprised by some people and disappointed by others.
And maybe the ones that don't try to climb are not.
Yeah, like
They're
there's
not
been
fit. It's not a good fit.
there's been people in my life, I guess that were close. I guess they could have been interested in crypto, but never reached out to me. And there's other people that I might have not been as close with, but have reached out and like
Done well for
caught the
themselves.
bug and
Yeah.
listened, and they're learning and growing, and I don't have any. I hardly ever talk about it unless people bring it up to me.
That's how it is for me.
Because for most people, it's just
They don't even know what it
They
is.
don't know. They don't care. Like they don't know how the dollar works. They don't want to hear me go off on like Federal Reserve policy and my reservations about it. Right.
Right.
And you don't care about distributed systems or cryptography or
Right.
decentralization or sovereignty. So I'm definitely, I'm not trying to force it on anyone. But if people ask, I'll go off.
Right.
Right. I'll
Right.
keep talking as long as they want me to talk. But I think that's just part of life. You're going to grow past people. Some people are just not going to like the path you're on or be able to follow it, and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah, you kind of figure out who's who. It's like at this point, there's this phenomenon of this currency that's been going up exponentially, essentially, over the last decade. I've known about it since 2012. I've been working with it since 2012. I've been working full-time in the industry for over 2 years now. And like I'm this wealth of information, relatively speaking, to the average person. And it separates the friends who are all there and who are not, because the ones who are will ask about it, and they've already seen, there was a crash, but most of them have done pretty well, and they're going to continue doing very well. And then there are the other friends. It's like they're watching their other friends make quite a bit of money, and they're still sitting there not asking any questions, just not curious.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
That's not surprising.
I don't know what's going on there.
Well, not a
Like,
lot.
How
There's
can
not a-
you watch people getting rich and not at least ask, hey, so how does this work?
Well, that's easy.
If there's just no.
Well, that's easy because there are a segment of the population that doesn't necessarily care about what you care about in terms of, like you just said,
But
other
everyone
people getting
cares
rich.
about money.
Not necessarily.
Ugh.
No, I agree. Everyone does care about value and being able to take care of themselves.
Right.
But there are not a lot of people that are actually interested in like the abstraction of money as a concept and like
Yeah.
its innovation. And then I think in any society, there's like 50 to 80% of the people that are just don't necessarily care about updating the system, and they're kind of they're kind of comfortable with it, whatever routine or whatever setup they have, and it's scary for them to step outside of it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And that's what the other, like, maybe 20%, 15, 10% of people who do want to step out of the box or do want to experiment, they do want to do something a little different, radical, off the beaten path.
Right.
And those people, we're the one we adopted early. We start building on top of it. That's what you're doing. It's like you got interested in it, and then all of a sudden now, a couple years later, you're helping build it.
Oh yeah.
Right? So you're building it for those people that are waiting for it to be
built.
They're waiting for it to be like a
Easy.
part of society where
Right.
they don't feel like a weirdo, or they don't feel stupid.
Right.
And they're just, they're kind of along for the ride. And that's
Right.
always going to be a large segment of any human population.
Right.
Right. They're going to wait for it to be like it's going to be more than obvious why they should use it, or like everyone else's. Like literally, that's the number one reason why most people do things, is because everyone else is, and we know for a fact that everyone else is not using cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
There are some people, they like know a guy, but until everyone else is doing it, they're not going to do it, because for most people, that's the number one reason they can think of why they're doing whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. So it's kind of like when you watch birds in a flock.
Right.
They're able to, if they were all independent entities, you wouldn't have those like formations.
Right.
Right. So you have a few leaders in the flock.
Right.
And they're all going off, but most of them are kind of just going off of
Going
what
with
everyone
the
else
flow.
is doing.
Right.
And that out of that, you kind of get like a beautiful flock. If they're all independent, like eagles, you don't get a flock of eagles like
Right.
that. So there is always that block of human beings, and that's going to be within even in friend groups, right? So maybe you have five,
Oh, right.
five
Right,
friends,
right.
and maybe there's you and another guy that's like interested, and the other
Right.
three are like
Just
I still
whatever.
don't care.
Yeah.
But like we were talking before, Facebook is a huge deal for people like that.
Yeah.
Why? Because everyone else is doing it. That's literally
It'll
the only
almost
reason.
force them to get at least somewhat familiar with it. So I see how you
Yeah.
can say it could be a good thing. It's a very small step in the right direction, I suppose.
It's at least a bridge or a gateway drug, right?
Yeah. Have I told you about the Casasius coin? Okay, so I'll tell you. I don't remember if I had told anyone this story in our company. So it was 2012, and I was working out in Arizona, and I bought. I had gone to the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Do you got to go right now? Not yet?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to the Porcupine Freedom Festival in 2012. I actually met Roger Ver there, and he's the first guy that sent me any Bitcoin
Yeah.
via Coin to
Nice.
pull
Yeah,
and
I mean,
bid instant.
he was one of the first people for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people
he was
in Bitcoin in
evangelizing
particular don't
hard
like it,
back
but
then.
Roger Ver was a
Yeah.
force, and one of
Yeah.
the he's not the reason, but he's a big reason why a lot of people got into it.
Yeah.
He brought the energy, the intellectual energy, kind of the moral and ethical stuff. All the libertarian.
It was just funny because I was
talking
there when he
points.
was still kind of like just a guy. You know what I mean? He was just a guy that
Yeah.
liked Bitcoin a lot. So I bought something like
Yeah.
5 of those Casasius physical coins.
Oh, now I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Okay.
at like $7 per coin. And I was living in Arizona at the time, so I brought them back. So they were like nice little collector's items, right? They're cool. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
a Bitcoin. Like they're just a nice little collector's item. And I was working a job where I'd commute an hour and a half each way every day. So I would talk with my coworkers about Bitcoin sometimes. You know how it is. You don't shut up about it. And they're like, yeah, whatever.
It's a
Sounds
mind virus.
like a scam. You know what I mean? The usual stuff. Oh, it's probably not going to go anywhere. It's worthless. What gives it value? Ugh. So finally, one of them, I was like, you know what? Here. Take this coin, and it only cost me $7, right? And at the time, it's probably worth like $10. I was like, here, just take this coin and just promise me you will not lose it.
Okay.
He's like, okay, whatever. It's not going to go anywhere. I was like, all right, bud.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, fine. Just make sure you hold it. And so finally, it's 7 years later now, and it was getting close. I wrote on Facebook, I was like, oh, it's getting close to 10K. And this ex-coworker was like, yeah, I'm wondering if I should sell it or not. And I was like, oh, he's going to sell some Bitcoin. I was like, wait, no, he's talking about the coin I gave him. So I gave it to him when it was about $10. Now it's worth one Bitcoin is worth almost 10,000, but since it's a Casasius coin, it's worth another 20 to 50% because it's a collector's item. So,
That was literally that was like the perfect introduction to Bitcoin at the
Oh,
time
yeah.
for you,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was literally a collectible. That was like
Yeah.
at the stage of money it was at, because it
Right.
was not a medium. Like you could use it as a medium exchange, but the only people that had
It
it
was
were
like
like Roger
an oddity.
Ver.
It was an
you, and-
oddity.
yeah, exactly. It
Yeah.
was a collectible.
Well, what's hilarious is at the time, you remember, at the time when I gave it to him, I had to convince him that there was value, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was messaging, and I was like, "Oh, you still have it?" He's like, "Yeah, I got it. I show it to my friends sometimes. They say they think it's worthless, that it doesn't have any value." I was like, "So the student has become the teacher, so he has to tell them how
Yeah.
it has value, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the role that I had to play toward him 7 years ago." So I think it's hilarious. I hope he keeps it safe. I think I'm going to try to actually buy it off of him
Yeah.
because it is a collector's item, especially the fact that I was the one that gave it to him.
Yeah,
so
that would be a good one to have in your.
It would
war
be
chest,
it
though.
would be beautiful. Yeah, it would be beautiful.
And-
But have to.
The Bitcoin reminds me of the. Have you ever heard of the marshmallow test?
Uh-uh.
So there was, and I don't even know if they've replicated it. Psychology in general has a hard time replicating it. That's
Right.
another story. But there was some type of experiment done, I guess, a couple decades ago with young children,
Right.
And trying to gauge their level of self-control.
Right.
And basically, they'd put a kid in a room, like at a table like this, and they'd put a marshmallow on there.
Right.
And basically, they weren't allowed to like touch it.
Okay.
And they'd see how long it took them to like grab the marshmallow and start eating it or
Right,
something like that.
right.
So after, let's say, some kids were quick to eat it, like they couldn't like help themselves, even though they knew they shouldn't. You could see in the cameras, they're like fighting, like, oh, I shouldn't eat it, but
Right.
they really want it. And then it was basically a longitudinal study over time.
Okay.
And basically there was a pretty good correlation between the kids that were patient and
Right.
waited, and then and success, like as in worldly success,
So like years later, they did well.
like in school,
careers.
not going to jail,
Right.
alcoholism, and the kids that were like less patient,
impulsive.
impulsive. So like, and I bring that up for Bitcoin, especially in the early days. Like, people think, oh, if I would have just got like 1,000,
Yeah.
in 2011, 2012, or something like that, I'd be rich now. And actually, the probabilities are
That you
that
would
you wouldn't
keep it.
even know why it was valuable. Like, you probably didn't have the
Yeah.
the background
You
to
weren't
understand
interested in
why,
economics,
or
yeah. You
and
didn't
you
get
probably
it.
would have sold it as soon as it like had any price appreciation.
Right.
Like as soon as it went from 10 to 20, you probably would have sold all of it.
They're impulsive.
Exactly. Yeah. Where the longtime Bitcoin holders recognized its value. Like you were like, hold this.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
don't know exactly why.
Yeah, just trust
But
it. if it's
if
worthless, then
anything-
what's the point of selling
exactly.
it?
There's no
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where the Bitcoin was a great marshmallow test for a lot of people. Like, could you hold on to this and be patient?
Yeah.
And not just sell at the first chance of profit.
Yeah.
Because by selling at the first chance of profit, you basically gave up on like 1,400% return.
Yeah.
Some ungodly returns to get like you were happy with like a 50%. Where instead of going from 10 to 20, you could have just waited a few years and it went from like 10 to 10,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we all wish we saved a little bit more, but what can you do? I'm happy with where I'm at. Is there a developer talk next Thursday? Oh, this is Chris Calabio talking.
Calabio
Yeah.
looks like- yeah.
I have a feeling he's in San Diego. Listen, San Diego Blockchain Development Meetup. We were scheduled to have a talk by a person that I know. He's lagged with regards to putting in the information for the event, which makes me think he's not prepared for it. So I got to email him and ask him if he wants to delay it.
who's this?
Chris Behar. He works with Total E, so it would be probably around smart contracts.
Total E. You mean like
Total. Excuse
total.
me.
I didn't.
Yeah, total. So it
you
would
just
probably
added
be-
the E for inflection there.
Well, I don't know how do you pronounce it? It's not a real. It's not a real word.
You might be right though.
It's not a real word.
I think it's total.
It's not a real word, is all I'm saying. So I'll try to talk with him, figure out what the information is for that, because it's kind of short notice to be announcing it now on a Friday the week before. Hypothetically, I might be leaving for a few months, starting in late July. So I want to have at least one talk before in the San Diego Blockchain Development Meetup before I leave. So I think that's it for today. Bit of a long talk. I had fun.
I guess one
What?
more announcement.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, because what do we have coming up? Oh, I'll be where will I be? I'll be in San Francisco for Bitcoin 2019. So if you're there, I'll be there. Look for this guy.
What's
come
the
say
date
hi.
on that?
Let's see. Oh, I don't even. It's like a Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
Sometime.
Is that next week?
I need to know
Is that next
actually,
week?
though. Yeah, like
Okay.
20. Let me look on the interwebs right now. Bitcoin.
Are you guys gonna have a booth at all?
No, it's gonna be a walking booth.
A wa- a walking booth.
I am the booth.
He'll be set. He'll be
Let's see.
charging for autographs.
I'm just gonna be, socializing.
Sling-
Moving in the
slinging-
shadows,
slinging
talking
wisdom.
to people. Be like, yo, you want to talk Bitcoin right
starting.
now? I'll be like, yo,
starting drama.
I got some Bitcoin in my jacket. I'm gonna
There
come
you
with a bunch
go.
of Bitcoin.
A bunch of
Let's see,
Bitcoin. That's
when-
literally what Roger Ver did in 2012. He'd be like, "Hey, you want some
want some
Bitcoin?"
Bitcoin? Yeah.
That's literally what he.
Oh,
I
so
think I think he still does that. It's just Bitcoin Cash.
Bitcoin
now.
2019 is in San
Yeah.
Francisco, June 25th to the 26th. I'll be there.
Edward
if you're
Snowden
there, come say
talking,
hi.
huh? Is he even allowed?
Yeah,
in
they
the
got
country?
a great lineup.
Oh, he must be patching in from Russia, right?
I have no idea how they're gonna set that up, but I'm
Yeah.
sure he's got something set up.
Yeah, it looks like quite the lineup.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. One of my favorite music festivals of the year, Bitcoin 2019. Incredible lineup.
There you go.
Yeah,
Well-
I think we covered a good amount.
Yeah, so I think that's it for this Friday. We are live every Friday with our Edge Q&A.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. So let me think about it. Yeah, so we're available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. If you have any questions, hit us up there. If you're one of our Edge Wallet users, which you should be, and you have any questions or comments or feedback, or if you're having issues, definitely reach out to us. We are very prompt with regards to helping our users. We realize that your money is at stake. So until next week, this is Brett and Kylan. Kylan? I just said my name wrong. Remember, guys, your keys, your coins.